Have you ever noticed how the price of, say, a really hot gadget can just shoot up overnight?
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
And then, like, a few months later, it tanks just as fast when the next big thing comes along.
Exactly. Or why sometimes you just cannot find something, even though everyone wants it, while other stuff seems to be everywhere, piled high.
Uh-huh. Those aren't random things happening. They're actually signals, right?
Yeah.
Little clues about this really powerful force humming away under the surface of the economy.
And that force is what we're diving into today, market equilibrium.
That's the one.
Our mission here is to unpack how these two big players, supply and demand, are constantly wrestling with each other.
Yeah, how they interact to set the prices and, how much stuff gets made and sold. For everything, really.
From your morning coffee right up to global commodities like oil or microchips, we want to give you a clearer lens to see how markets find that balance point.
Or maybe more realistically, how they're always sort of scrambling to get back to balance after something shifts.
Okay, but before we get too deep into the weeds,
Oh.
just a quick reminder. This deep dive pulls heavily from material provided by Farhat lectures.
Right. Great resources there.
All the content, the examples we'll discuss, the explanations they're derived from the comprehensive accounting resources you can find over at farhatlectures.com.
So if you're maybe an accounting student or studying for the CPA exam,
Or even if you're already a professional, definitely check out the website. They've got extra practice questions, video lectures, lots of support to really hammer home what we talk about today.
and yeah, big thanks to Professor Farhat for making this material available. It's really valuable stuff.
All right, let's get into it then. Market equilibrium. To really get it, we need that quick refresher, like you said, on the foundation.
The building blocks, demand and supply.
Let's start with demand. The basic idea, the law of demand, is that inverse relationship, right?
Yeah, generally speaking, if the price of something goes up
People tend to buy less of it. The quantity demanded falls.
and the other way around, price goes down, quantity demanded tends to rise. It's just that natural pull towards a better deal or being put off by a higher price tag,
And it's important, I think, to nail down the difference between a change in quantity demanded.
which is just you reacting to the price changing, moving along that demand curve on a graph,
Right. Versus a change in demand itself.
where the whole curve shifts. Maybe because suddenly everyone decides they love avocado toast or, incomes change across the board.
Got it. So that's demand. What about the other side? Supply.
Well, what's really interesting is how supply is kind of the counterforce to demand. It works the other way.
Okay.
The law of supply shows a positive relationship between price and the quantity supplied. So if producers see they can get a higher price for their goods.
They're more willing to make more of it. Makes sense. Better profit potential.
Exactly. But if the price dips, that incentive shrinks, and they'll likely offer less.
And again, that distinction. Change in quantity supplied.
Just adjusting output based on the current price, moving along the supply curve,
versus a change in supply.
where the whole curve shifts again. Maybe a new technology makes it cheaper to produce, or the cost of raw materials spikes. That pushes the whole supply curve left or right.
Okay, so we have these two big forces. What people want and are willing to pay,
Demand,
and what producers are willing and able to make and sell at various prices.
supply.
When those two finally meet, when they balance out, that's our target today, market equilibrium.
That's the spot. It's basically a state of balance, maybe stability in the market. The quantity consumers are demanding is exactly the same as the quantity producers are supplying.
It's literally where those two lines, supply and demand, cross on the graph, right?
Precisely. Let's make it concrete. Yeah. Think about pizza slices at a big outdoor festival.
Okay, I'm hungry already.
So imagine at exactly $3 a slice, let's say the pizza places there are willing to supply exactly 7,000 slices in total.
Well,
And conveniently, for our example, at that same $3 price, the festival goers want to buy exactly 7,000 slices.
it's a perfect match.
Perfect match. Every slice made finds a home. Every person who wants a slice at that price gets one. No piles of cold pizza left over.
And no long, hangry lines of people who can't get any.
Exactly. That $3 price, we call it the market clearing price.
Because it clears the market. No excess, no shortage.
Yep. It's kind of the ideal outcome where everything balances perfectly.
But, and this is a big but, isn't it? The real world isn't usually that neat and tidy.
Oh, not at all. Here's where it gets really interesting, like you said earlier,
Yeah.
because real markets are messy. They're constantly moving.
So that perfect equilibrium point, it's not like a fixed destination you arrive at and stay.
Not really, no. It's much more like trying to balance on a seesaw that's constantly being nudged. Equilibrium is dynamic. It's a process, not a permanent state.
Okay, so what kind of things nudge the seesaw?
All sorts of things. Think about consumer tastes changing on a dime.
Yeah.
Suddenly, everyone's into oat milk. Or maybe a health scare makes people avoid something. That shifts demand instantly.
Right, or new technology.
Huge one. If someone invents a much faster pizza oven, pizzerias can make more, cheaper. That shifts supply.
Input costs too, I guess, like if the price of cheese suddenly doubles.
Absolutely. That makes it more expensive to produce, likely reducing supply. Even government policies play a big role.
Like taxes. Or maybe subsidies.
Exactly. A new tax on sugary drinks shifts demand, maybe. A subsidy for farmers shifts supply. The list goes on.
But the key idea is that in a market that's working reasonably well,
These forces, these pushes and pulls, will naturally guide things back towards a new equilibrium point after a disruption. It's kind of a self-correcting mechanism.
okay, so if equilibrium is that ideal balance, let's talk about when it gets knocked off. What happens when the seesaw tips too far one way? Let's start with too much stuff, a surplus.
Right. Excess supply.
Mm.
This happens when, at whatever the current market price is, producers are making and offering way more than consumers actually want to buy.
You see unsold inventory piling up. What typically causes that?
Well, one common reason is just an unexpected jump in production. Maybe that new technology we mentioned really takes off.
Like, suddenly apple orchards have a bumper crop because of some new technique.
Exactly. Farmers bring tons more apples to market. But if people aren't suddenly eating way more apples, you've got a problem.
Hmm.
Too many apples, not enough buyers at the old price.
So prices have to drop to get rid of them?
They usually do. Or think about a sudden drop in demand. Maybe a fashion trend just dies overnight.
Oh yeah, like those fidget spinners a few years back.
Perfect example. Stores were suddenly stuck with mountains of them. Or maybe an economic downturn hits and people just cut back on spending. That clothing brand with a warehouse full of last season's style.
They're having a big sale soon. Clearance racks overflowing.
It's that market correction kicking in.
Yeah.
And then there are external things like government rules, price floors, for example.
Price floors. That's a minimum price, right? Set above where the market would naturally settle.
Precisely. Think agriculture. If the market equilibrium for wheat is, say, $5 a bushel, but the government says, nope, farmers must get at least $7.
Okay, so farmers love that. They'll grow more wheat.
Right. But buyers, like bakeries or consumers,
Yeah.
they want less wheat at that higher price.
Ah, so you get a gap, lots of supply, less demand, a surplus.
A big one, often. And the government might even have to step in and buy the excess, which costs taxpayers money. It shows how trying to fix a price can create its own problems.
So basically a surplus is the market flashing a sign. Too much. Slow down production or lower the price.
That's a good way to put it. When the price is stuck above equilibrium, producers see stock piling up. Costs rise, potential waste. It's not sustainable.
So they have to react, cut prices, run promotions, maybe even produce less next time around.
Yep, all trying to nudge the market back towards that balance point where supply meets demand again.
Okay, let's flip the seesaw. What about the other side? When everyone wants something and there's just not enough. The dreaded shortage.
Excess demand. Yeah, we've all been there. That's when, at the current price, the quantity people want to buy is way higher than what producers are offering.
Concert tickets for a super popular band or finding toilet paper back in early 2020.
Exactly. Shortages often get triggered by a sudden sharp increase in demand that suppliers just weren't ready for.
Like the masks and hand sanitizer situation. Demand went vertical almost overnight.
And supply couldn't keep up. Available stock vanished, prices went crazy if they weren't controlled, or think about a new iPhone launch.
Right. The hype machine goes into overdrive. Everyone wants the new features.
And Apple, even with a massive production, often can't meet that initial surge. You get waiting lists, people camping out,
So
demand way outstrips immediate supply.
what else causes shortages besides demand spikes?
Big one is supply disruption. Anything that messes with production or delivery.
Natural disasters, factory problems, strikes.
All of those. Or issues with raw materials, political instability in a key region. Think about the chip shortage affecting cars and electronics recently.
Yeah, that's been huge. Caused by pandemic shutdowns, logistics nightmares.
Exactly. It shows how a problem in one part of the supply chain can ripple outwards and create widespread shortages. Or, conflict in an oil-producing area can threaten supply and send prices soaring based on anticipated shortages.
It really highlights how connected everything is.
It does. And then, just like price floors can cause surpluses, Price ceilings can cause shortages.
Okay, ceilings are maximum prices set below the natural market price.
Correct. Rent control in places like New York City is the classic textbook example. Let's say the market rent for an apartment might naturally be $5,000 a month,
Okay,
but the city imposes a ceiling, say, $3,000 to make it affordable.
sounds good for renters, right?
On the surface, maybe. But what happens? At $3,000, tons of people want that apartment, huge demand. But landlords, they have much less incentive to offer apartments at that price or even maintain them well.
Ah, so supply shrinks or doesn't grow while demand explodes, leading to...
A massive shortage. Long waiting lists, maybe illegal side payments, buildings falling into disrepair because the capped rent doesn't cover upkeep. It's an attempt to help, but it can create scarcity.
So a shortage is the market screaming, we need more, we're willing to pay, where is it?
Pretty much. When the price is held below equilibrium, buyers are frustrated, competing for limited goods. If the market can adjust,
Prices will tend to rise.
right, that higher price signals to producers, hey, there's unmet demand here, make more. It draws more supply into the market, eventually easing the shortage and moving towards a new, higher equilibrium price.
Okay, this is all starting to click. So bringing it back to us, the listeners, how does understanding these shifts, equilibrium, surplus, shortage, actually help in everyday life? Like when you're reading the news or maybe preparing for a meeting?
It gives you a really powerful framework, I think, a way to cut through the noise and see the underlying mechanics. You can start to predict how changes might affect prices and availability.
Like a mental model.
Exactly. We can simplify it by just thinking about those supply and demand curves shifting on a graph.
Yeah.
Let's take scenario one. Supply stays put, but demand changes.
Okay.
If demand increases, the curve shifts right. What happens?
Well, more people want it, so price probably goes up, and quantity sold should go up too.
Spot on, higher price, higher quantity. Now, flip it. Demand decreases, curve shifts left. Supply is still the same.
Less demand. So price drops and quantity sold drops too.
Perfect. That's the demand shift scenario.
All right, scenario two. Demand stays constant, but supply shifts.
Okay, so if supply increases, more stuff available, curve shifts right.
More availability usually means lower prices, but more will be sold overall.
Correct. Price down, quantity up. Think of that bumper apple crop again. Cheaper apples, lots available.
And if supply decreases, maybe if frost damages the orange groves, supply curve shifts left.
Less supply, demand is the same.
Price goes up because it's scarcer,
Right.
and quantity sold goes down.
Exactly. Fewer oranges, higher price per orange. These single shifts are fairly predictable.
But here's the tricky part you mentioned earlier. What happens when both supply and demand are shifting at the same time? Because that feels much more like the real world.
It absolutely is. And this is where just guessing gets you into trouble. You need that framework.
Yeah.
When both curves move, the outcome for either price or quantity can become undetermined unless you know how much each curve shifted relative to the other.
Undetermined, meaning you can't know for sure just by knowing the directions of the shifts.
Right. It signals uncertainty. You need more data on the magnitude of the shifts. Let's walk through the combos.
Okay.
First, supply increases and demand decreases.
So more stuff available, but fewer people want it.
What definitely happens to price.
Yeah.
Both shifts push it down, right?
Price definitely falls. But quantity. More supply wants to increase quantity, less demand wants to decrease it.
Yeah.
So
It's undetermined. Depends which effect is stronger. Did supply grow massively while demand only dipped slightly? Or vice versa? You don't know the net effect on quantity without more info.
got it. Combo 2. Supply decreases and demand increases.
Less stuff available, but more people want it.
Okay, both factors push the price up. So
Hmm.
price definitely rises.
Right, but quantity. Less supply pulls it down, more demand pulls it up.
Undetermined again. Depends on the size of the shifts.
Exactly. Combo 3, supply increases and demand increases.
More stuff and more people wanting it.
What definitely happens to quantity sold?
Oh, that has to go up. More supply, more demand, more transactions.
Definitely. Quantity goes up, but price. More supply pushes it down, more demand pushes it up.
Price is undetermined. Could go either way or stay the same, depending on which shift is bigger.
You got it. Last one. Supply decreases and demand decreases.
Less stuff available and fewer people wanting it.
So quantity sold definitely goes.
Down, fewer suppliers, fewer buyers,
Right.
less activity.
Quantity down, but price. Less supply pushes it up, less demand pushes it down.
Undetermined, again, wow.
See, visualizing it or even sketching it out quickly helps avoid those traps.
Yeah.
You understand why the outcome might be uncertain.
That's actually incredibly helpful. So, wrapping this up, the big takeaway seems to be that market equilibrium isn't some fixed point, but this constantly moving target.
A dynamic balancing act.
Right, where supply and demand meet. But the real world is always throwing curveballs, changing tastes, new tech, global events, creating these imbalances
Surpluses where there's too much.
or shortages where there's not enough.
Uh-huh.
But by understanding these basic laws, how the curves shift, even when they shift together, you get a much better handle on why prices change, why things go in and out of stock.
And you can interpret what's happening in the economy or even just at your local grocery store with a bit more insight.
It helps make sense of the economic headlines.
Definitely. And maybe it prompts you to think a bit differently. Consider how often you see prices change day to day.
All the time. Gas prices, food, airline tickets.
Right. Now, armed with this understanding of equilibrium, you can start to see the invisible forces, those supply and demand shifts working behind the scenes. Maybe ask yourself, what market shift have you noticed recently?
Like maybe for electric vehicles or a particular type of food that got really popular.
Exactly. How could the principles we talked about, shifts in supply, demand, maybe even government policies, help explain what you observed? It makes economics feel a bit less abstract, more connected to your world.